Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Childcare Marketing Stage. This is our second session already on the Childcare Marketing Stage. And today we're going to be diving into everything about nursery events, how to fill them, how to run them, how to turn them into enrolments. And if you've ever hosted an open day and wondered, was it worth it? Then this session is going to be 100% for you. I'm joined today with the wonderful Debbie from Walsall Childcare. Debbie's got an amazing background. I'm sure she'll tell you all about it shortly. And then we've got Nigel as well, who you may be familiar with by now if you've watched any of the previous CM Stage sessions. But Nigel is an ex-owner of 11 Day Nurseries and also part of the team here at Childcare Marketing as well. So I guess we're going to dive straight in today, and we're going to dive straight in with a very broad question. I'm going to aim it at you, Debbie, if that's okay, just to start with. And the question is really, why are nursery events such a key part of your marketing and parent sort of engagement strategy?
Okay, well, I've got two very large nurseries. We don't use events for the one because we don't need to, but for the other one, we feel we need to become almost the hub of the community. So we try and have our events as things that we know that families will want to come along to. So we're constantly trying to raise our profile and become the nursery of choice. And no one else does them by us. So we become the experts. We become the place that people want to come to.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I think it's really crucial that, as part of your, I guess, not just your marketing strategy. I mean, it's more of your business strategy, isn't it? In terms of, getting your name out there and getting that name established within the community and bringing the community together with an event is obviously a great way to do that. I mean, Nigel, with your experience in terms of events, I mean, how has it ever sat within your engagement strategies? What have you looked at in terms of the principle behind it?
Very similar to Debbie in terms of a lot of it was about just trying to be out there and be part of the community. And I suppose just thinking back, I mean, each nursery was slightly different in terms of its community presence. But if there was a local event going on, then, for example, I had one nursery that was on a village location. They had a village fair every year. So it made sense to actually have sort of the nursery event as part of that event. So actually you had traffic then coming into the nursery as well as part of attending the village event. But then I think the key thing I will point out is the word event. Okay. And maybe that's the key thing, because I think and maybe Debbie will back me up on this, is that having open days, and I'm going to be a bit controversial here, they're a bit boring. It's a bit like saying, come and have a coffee, and have a chat. Whereas an event has a purpose, a meaning. And I think that was the one thing that I learned with my nurseries, was that switching that emphasis away from having an open day just to get some interest in the community to turning it into an event. So it became something a bit special. It also meant we didn't have to do that many of them, because I think, yeah. So what was your view on that, Debbie? You with
I agree, because for us, we've done open days. When I think back 22 years ago now, when we opened, you used to put a banner up outside, you've got an open day, you're a new nursery, and they'd be queuing up the drive, wouldn't they? That's what it was like. But it's not like that now. People want something. They want to be coming to something, not just you're open. And you see so many nurseries on Facebook that have got an open day, and you look at your picture and you think they might have 3 or 4 children there. We had at our last one probably 200 children there. It was absolutely heaving. It was mad. But because we were offering something different, there was something in it for them. We had events all day for them to come and enjoy and spend time as a family. So there was no hard pressure sales. There was no we're selling you a nursery place. We had people wandering around to chat to people, and that's how we did it. We didn't sell on the day unless people asked us.
Mm.
So you could almost go down the queue and say, "I'll have you and you,"
Yep,
and
oh, you used to come here, or oh, you brought a friend, and it was that sort of thing. We asked for reviews on the day as well, which pushed our Google reviews up by, I think we got an extra 12 Google reviews on the day.
Wow.
And everyone was
Wow.
saying about how friendly everyone was. And they'd have been talking about us the next week when they went to the
Yeah.
schools. So we just gave a buzz to the area.
No, it's absolutely brilliant.
Open days just didn't do that. They were boring.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I think what you've done there, it's like you've not only created an event, you've created I guess I mean from my knowledge, obviously you've run events for years, yeah, and you've created that following that people potentially now know you for running events, which means that in the community, you've built that reputation. When you're running the event, you're also building more of a reputation because you're asking for Google reviews, and if you're getting 5-star reviews, it's helping again with your exposure. You're getting word of mouth because people have been talking about the event, and people are going, "Oh, wasn't that amazing? Wasn't it great?" Talking to the school, everything else. You're building that level of engagement there, and then the final part is you're building trust, because then all of those parents that have come, they're like, "Wow, wasn't that great?" And actually, that's a great place to send my child. It's a great place actually for such and such a child to go to because it's such a great event. And I think it just creates that feel across the board that you can't get by just doing an open day every month or every week. Running an open day every Friday. It doesn't work in the same way as the event that you've run. That's been, 200 people. I think you'll probably find a few owners that are listening will probably fall off their chair when they hear that. And I think
it was hard work. We dragged them in. We were still marketing the night before, but we fought for every person to come through that door. As you know, Ben, from the oh my God, we've only done so many sales. So we pushed and pushed and pushed. But if we don't push, no one's going to.
Yeah, exactly.
But also think that also from the staff point of view as well, that I think that there's a real big difference there, because you want your staff to be engaged and excited, and they're giving up their time, because these events don't happen during typical nursery hours, they happen outside. So actually I found that by changing the emphasis from being open day to actually an event, all of the team got excited, they got behind the whole theme, they were buzzing. And I think that actually getting people to pre-register as well meant that they know actually people are interested, so their time is not being given up in vain, and it made a big difference. I mean, I think the event not only, I suppose from my perspective, helped in terms of boosting occupancy numbers, but actually it also helped boost with staff morale. That they saw it as very much a team effort and a team building sort of activity, and they loved it. They would have been pushing for more events, but you have to be practical about these things.
No, 100%, 100%. I mean, that I think, in that short sort of 5 minutes that we've been talking, we've kind of already covered, the whole point of, why events matter, more than ever. It's kind of, it's such a big area that I think a lot of nurseries forget about. It's one of those things that it's last minute, it's not necessarily planned, it's a thing that just pops up. And actually, it's one of those things that shouldn't just pop up. It's one of those things that should just be consistent. Should be part of the part of the day. I call it the day-to-day schedule. The day-to-day running. You should always have an event planned. Whether it's next year, whether it's the year after, you should always have that in your schedule ready to go. And it shouldn't be a last-minute thing that just pops up and we're going to do an open day next week. Because the problem is you don't have time. You don't have the ability to achieve any of those things that we've just spoken about. And that kind of brings us straight on to the key area there of planning the perfect event. I mean, Debbie, do you mind just giving us a bit of background about I guess how you plan your event and how you make it a success from that point of view in terms of the planning and that initial setup in terms of structure?
Okay, so our event was 2 weeks ago. We started planning this probably in March. So we sit down as a team and we do a timeline. We always, for anything major that's happening, we always follow the timeline. So we knew that what date we wanted, that we had the character booked, because that can take a while and you have to wait for their approval and the artwork, etc. So we follow the timeline. We had our staff booked in, so they knew sort of 3 months that this was the date and we would like them to work it, because people have got lives. Then we tell Ben what we want to do and what we're going to do. He then sends the artwork off to Rainbow Productions in this case, and sorted it out from that side and started to run the ads. It's probably May time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Till Whitsun.
we gave ourselves a good 2.5 months, I think, in terms of that promotional time.
And then we started to do the sharing of the posts. So we used our Flourish to contact people that had made inquiries. We started to share on local selling sites, sometimes more than once by mistake. We're only human. We spoke to the schools, and leaflets went out to every school within a 3-mile radius. Some schools sent it out on their newsletter. So we were constantly pushing it twice a week on Facebook, as well as the adverts going out. Then we did ours. It was a Gruffalo, the last event we did. So we had a Gruffalo trail. So we organised the building that you had to walk around the whole building to do the activities.
Wow.
So you saw everything that we did.
Brilliant.
But apart from baby room, which you could see through a window, because we didn't want people walking through there. So the staff were told which character they were going to do the activity for, and they came up with their own task that they wanted to do and gave me the shopping list. We ordered great big banners. So you walked in, and it looked like you were coming into a woodland. So people were gasping as they walked in, because we had fairy lights and banners, and it was just beautiful. Brilliant. So then the week before we put the banners up, so we had 20 banners within a mile radius of the nursery on every surface that we could find. We were cable tying, we were staple gunning, you name it, we did it.
Did you ever find that's a problem in terms of putting them up?
No, our local authority will let you do it for just over a week. Unfortunately, my husband, who put them up, then went on a motorbike trip, so wasn't here to take them down within that time scale. And some of them have now disappeared, but we're never going to use them again, so it saves us getting rid of them. So no, we've never had a particular issue. If you did it for a long time, I think you would. And you have to think where you're putting them, that they're not going to cause an obstruction, that sort of thing. But then they're not huge. We sort of have them, I think these were 6 by 3, so they're not causing obstructions.
Yeah.
So no, that's not an issue. And then we got everything set up on the Friday night and turned up at sort of 8:30 on the Saturday, ready to go.
Brilliant.
The 12.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I guess in terms of that, in terms of obviously like I guess the time and effort that goes into it. I mean, obviously, I guess from your point of view, it's worth it, right?
Yeah. The team loved doing them. So as we left, and we were tired because we left at about 2:30, 3 o'clock. When's the next one? What are we doing next? So we sat there with a burger, because that's what we'd given out on the day, and we decided what we're going to do next. So our next event's already booked.
Wow. Yeah, that's brilliant. I think it shows like I guess all those things we spoke about at the start. It's kind of really looking at building that trust, building word of mouth, building that reputation, the energy within the setting. All of those things are kind of carried through the whole process. And I mean, even the setup, right? You've said there straight away that the team actually enjoyed the setup process. And I'm going to bounce a question to Nigel. In your experience, have you ever been in that situation where your team has felt overly motivated to do it, or the traditional open days that potentially you ran? Did you ever find that they were a problem? Do you ever find that there was any issues with trying to get that motivation?
Well, I think with the open days, I think initially people were quite excited about doing something, but the issue I think I found was that the open days, you didn't know who was coming. So that was issue number one. So you didn't have this sort of situation where, you've got a sort of almost momentum there. And then because they didn't have a theme initially, staff were sat there, didn't really know what to do. So they lacked a bit of purpose, I suppose. Happy to do it, happy to be there. But this comes back to what Debbie was saying. I mean, we're going back sort of, probably 10, 12 years ago. And I think the changing them to an event was a bit of a game. Well, I think two things made a big difference. One is making it an event. That made a huge difference, both in terms of staff morale, but also in terms of attendance. Being able to pre-book made a big difference, because the fact that people could pre-register and you could see a lot of interest on social media and other aspects, it actually gave the staff confidence. They thinking, wow, look at all this interest that we've created. This is going to be really good.
Yeah, and with Debbie's, that was a sellout. So, extended bookings, extended registrations. So you can imagine that,
we
it just
were decide how many we could squeeze in.
Yeah. Yeah,
which is awesome. And I think that that came back to the things that you've done there, Debbie, which is planning well enough in advance, having a really good theme, getting a team all engaged. And I certainly found with it was almost like part of sort of the annual team building events, and one of them was actually having an event at the nursery, which involved bringing parents in, because, as you say, getting all the team involved was really exciting, and actually giving them the power to choose the theme and saying, okay, look, I'm not going to tell you what the theme is. You decide what you think parents are going to be interested in, what's going to appeal to the under fives. That's your role. And they really felt empowered. And I really enjoyed having the events.
No, because it's good, and I think I guess obviously the setup and getting that initial morale, getting the staff engagement, I guess, is vital. And I think it's Debbie, you've absolutely nailed it, right? From what I don't think from any of it, for a staff member, if you went around, I guess, a group of nurseries, you may find that you ask 10 nurseries, and I reckon only probably one of them would say, yeah, my staff want to run open another event or another open day. I think the rest of them will probably be a bit potentially deflated, because the perception of running an event or running an open day has always been a chore and always seen as a negative. And actually, if you turn it into something that's positive, A, the staff have a great time. B, the staff actually probably talk to parents more, and we'll come on to on the day in a second. And that's then more likely to lead to those registrations, and more likely to lead to the parent having a positive experience on the day as well. And then the ability to run more, right? That's the biggest problem that I see. And the nurseries that I speak to a lot of the time, I say, right, when's your next event? Oh, we're not going to do one because the last one was a flop. And it's just like, but the last one, why was it a flop? How can we make it better? How can we make that incredible? And now, if I said it now, how can we make that like Debbie's events? And that's the real key. And I think it's brilliant. There's nothing that there's nothing better than, I guess, other nursery owners, nursery practitioners, whoever's tuning on this session, to kind of get that little bit of a buzz on how they can make that event, their events, a success as well, because we're all in it together, and it's a case of just trying to make an impact where you can, without it being a chore, without it being negative, with it being something that's positive and something that you can really take forward to improve your registrations. Now, I guess moving on then to on the day, right? How to make the event smooth. Obviously you mentioned already, having that kind of walkthrough in the setting, making parents actually have to physically go in and see each room and see the whole setting, which is brilliant, because it gives them kind of a mini show round, albeit it's it's a mini show round of actually what you have. But I mean, in terms of on the day and making it a success, I mean, do you have did you have opportunities to speak to parents? Did you have, how do you get parents to register if they're interested? What's the sales part of it, I guess?
When they arrive, Lucy, who does all our inquiries, is on the desk, because she's the one that set everything up on Eventbrite. So she's booking them in, and she'll tell them what's happening on the day. If they're not our children, we would be highlighted. So we had our 3 best-selling people there ready to do the show rounds if necessary. So that was myself, the setting manager, and the manager of the nursery. So the 3 of us were there. Also, the staff, because we didn't have the whole team, because we're 120 place nursery. That's a lot of staff. And we'd be falling over each other. But the staff that were there were also the people that are very good at selling.
Yeah.
So even if they were having those conversations while they were doing their Gruffalo mask or whatever, they'd all got a notebook with them to take down the name of anyone that was interested that they thought was a potential lead. Because some people come in and they don't actually think they want childcare. They're not going to bother. They're happy where they are. And then they see what's on the other side and they're like, okay, I actually do want something different. And we get their details. So some places were sold on the day because people had come with that sole intention that they wanted to sign up and they didn't want to miss out. Other people were contacted the following week, and we're still taking inquiries from the day because we've raised our profile. So you asked me, Ben, how many places we'd sold. Well, we know we've sold 5. So it's brought in about 50k worth of sales on the day. Cost us about 4.5k to put on. So that's not a bad return on investment.
Good. And you say you're still getting more interest through now.
We're still getting them.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And
so
is that
we can't measure exactly the success of it because the interest before and the interest after
the impact. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I mean, I guess so. On the day, then you had a staff member obviously on the registration desk, and that they have to go past the registration desk in order to then access the event. So you're capturing details at that point. You've got staff that are good at selling, good at doing show rounds in key positions throughout the event, and ready to take down details and note down information. I guess throughout the day. I guess in terms of then that noting, but what happens with all the notes that are taken down? Do you then sit down and have a little collaboration, or do you?
Yeah. So when we were having the burger at the end of the session, the people that were the sellers would come up and say, "Right, I've got this." They knew that Lucy had already got that information because it was on Flourish or Eventbrite, so we had all their contact details anyway. And then they go, oh, well, I spoke to so-and-so. So she knew then that she needs to do something different the following week to make that contact with them.
Brilliant. And I guess a question that I guess, or a question that I know is a common one is, how many of those that registered actually turned up on the day?
Probably we upped it because we kept selling out. So we had a capacity for 320 people over the day. So we had them booked into our slots because the Gruffalo has to have a rest. It's very hard work with a Gruffalo. We're only allowed to perform for 40 minutes out of an hour. So we had them booked in for our slots. And out of that, we probably had a 30% turn up. 70% turn up, 30%.
Very good. And I guess in terms of that show rate, I mean, is there anything? I'm just going to skip a little bit back, pre-event. Is there anything you did to kind of encourage parents to turn up rather than not? I mean, I had another provider I spoke to earlier this week, and they basically had, I think it's 120 bookings, but they only had a show rate of 20%. And we looked at what they'd done, and there wasn't really much they'd done before. Is there anything you've done that's special, or anything you've done that can help anybody in that position?
So we sent a reminder out because we've always had it in our heads that families book what they're going to do sort of the weekend before. So we sent them a reminder email on the Friday for the previous week. To remind them that we couldn't wait to see them at the Gruffalo, and Lucy did it as a rhyme for the Gruffalo about what they were coming to do. Then on the Wednesday before the event, another reminder email went out that we couldn't wait, and so it was different to the first one. And then on the Friday before, just the 24 hours until the Gruffalo.
Wow.
Email.
Well, I mean, Nigel, I guess you're the, I guess you dub yourself a bit of an automations expert. Yeah, would you have done the same in terms of your reminder sequence?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that actually it's interesting about the week before because I probably, that's something I'm certainly going to add in, I think, to the sequences. Because I must admit, I think that's a really good point. What I do see a lot of is parents, they do tend to book in way in advance. So you get some people who register way, way early, and then they forget. So yeah, I mean, at the moment, I suppose in the sort of standard automation sequence we have on Flourish, it does have those reminders going out. But actually, it might be worth introducing a third one in that slot as well. I think that'd probably be quite a good move, actually.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's I guess obviously, you've done the event, you've done everything on the day the best you possibly can. You then got the follow up, right? Which I always describe as the hidden gold, because I always know that after an event, you've got an opportunity there really to everybody that's been motivated, inspired, everybody's engaged. You've then got that opportunity to go, right, now, here we go, right? Here is your opportunity to register for a space at our setting. I mean, Debbie, how did that look for you? I mean, were you making phone calls? Were you just doing email? What was...
It depended. So if we had the details from the staff, then it was a phone call. We booked some people in on the day for show rounds the following week. So one day we were doing 2 show rounds per hour. So at 10 o'clock, we normally only have one person, but we were double booking them. So we had them double booked to get in. So then there was a reminder email. It was lovely to see you all, sent some photos out, that sort of thing. And then she just keeps going. So in a couple of weeks, she'll send another message out. Are you still looking for childcare? They'll go into our No Like Trust sort of campaign. So they'll get the blogs that we send out personally that aren't part of our arrangement with you. So we send them out ourselves. So they'll start to go into that. Sometimes people will come back 6 months later and want a place, or they'll have gone somewhere else and not liked it, and then to go, because we've kept that momentum going, and they'll be invited to the next event and all that sort of thing. So we never let go.
So you filled up your pipeline heavily, and then what you've done with that pipeline is kept nurturing it. Just keep nurturing that pipeline. So I guess anybody that's been in that place where you've had some good attendance, not many signups in the day, if you follow that simple structure of you're just nurturing your audience after, and nurturing those people that attended afterwards, more so than you think, I guess. Would that be right? It's kind of, I think a lot of the time it's just like, done an event, let's follow them all up the following week. Once they're followed up, done. I think it's a bit more than that. I think, what you're saying there, you've got the blogs and everything else as well.
People don't, both, because they're very different nurseries. So people for the one nursery will book 6 months in advance. They're very organised. They know what they want to do. They know when they're going to do it. They know where they're going to go, because their, neighbour, friend, whoever already comes to that nursery. The nursery where we run the events so successfully is different. They're very much lastminute.com. So we will still get people in January go, oh yeah, I came to the Gruffalo. Had a great time. Can I have a place now? And they'll turn up sort of the day before head count or what have you, and think they're going to get a place. Because that's just how they are, and we know that's how they are. So we sort of follow that. Oh, there's another inquiry coming in as we speak.
Brilliant. I mean, no, I mean, I think it's. I mean, I guess you've always got to. You've always got to nurture anybody that's come through an event, I guess, and you've got to keep that going. And I guess, well, again, I think there are probably sales rules, and Nigel, you're probably closer to this than I am. But I guess you've probably got a lot of providers that say, I'll run an event, I've done my follow up, that's me done, and drop it. And then all of a sudden, that provider's got, say, 200 people attended. None of them, for example, if none of them registered, they've done the one follow-up, all those opportunities are then gone. And they've got no opportunity to get back.
I've seen that quite a lot. I think that happens a lot where, what you're doing, Debbie, is superb, because, you've thought about the whole process from start to finish. You've thought about the day experience. You then thought about the aftercare in terms of that nurturing. I think a lot of nurseries really aren't. They sort of, to a degree, they're not that organised with even with events. Some of them just basically come up with an idea. We need to do something because our numbers aren't looking good for September or whatever it might be. They then think they can just run an event on short notice and don't realise actually you've got to build interest. And then when they do have people turn up, they're not really thinking about, okay, well, these people sort of, they've taken the time to come to the nursery. So actually, we should sort of just carry on engaging with them and keeping them informed with bits and pieces. And I suppose it also comes back to how, I'm going to get in trouble for this, about how passionate somebody is about their nursery. Okay, if you genuinely believe your nursery is the best place for children in your area, then why would you let them go anywhere else? Yeah. Now, I know that's going to be controversial because people say, well, yeah, we are the best. But if you genuinely believe that, then you won't want children going to other nurseries, or dare I say it, the corporate nurseries, because you believe the best place for care and education for the children in your locality is you. And I think that's what comes out with yourself, Debbie. I think, you exude that passion for your nursery and in everything that you're doing.
No, 100%.
Yeah. And the team feel the same. If they do a show round, whether it's on the day or whenever, they are really annoyed if they choose someone else over them. They take it very personally because they're so invested in what they do.
It's good. It's really good, and I think it's it's the same. I guess it's the same with recruitment. It's the same with as getting children in, right? Because if you're not showing the passion, if you're not showing the enthusiasm as a setting, why would somebody choose you? And that is a serious problem, I guess, that we see a lot of the time within the sector. There are settings that, frankly, you look at and you think, oh, it's a great place to go, and you kind of think, well, where's the passion though? What do you do differently? What makes you special? What makes you stand out? And it's tricky. It's hard to do, but by running events like an event like you have, Debbie, in terms of every year you're doing big event, it's kind of like it's kind of something to look forward to, from a team point of view, but also from the parent point of view and opportunities point of view, because it just keeps that momentum going.
I
also think, Ben, it's also, one of the things is that, as nurseries, you want to differentiate yourselves from other nurseries. So you want to have something that, what is it about your nursery that makes you different? And actually, a really well-run event that's very professionally run, with good follow-up, good beginning, good afterwards, that basically sets the bar. And it almost sets the bar for all your competitors. If they're not thinking, I've got to do that tomorrow, what you're doing, they're behind the curve. And I think that's a key differentiator and a USP that you've got.
And it's also the thinking in ahead. It's thinking in advance. So we had this booked months and months and months ago for July, and we're not thinking of this as a September income particularly. This is a January, because the babies, etc. We're thinking that far in advance. So the event we've got booked for December isn't as big as a Gruffalo, but it's going to be spectacular because I'm already getting the staff coming up with, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do the other? That's for Easter, because with the funding changes, we're not going to get these drips and drabs during the term. They're going to be coming in at the beginning of the term, and we need to be thinking 6 months in advance.
Yes.
Yeah,
and you're right.
From a business point of view as well, you want them almost to come in at the start of the term because it gives you the ability to make better planning. And financially speaking as well. You've got a better spread throughout the year rather than having a massive influx at different points throughout the year. It's kind of now, okay, we should get a bit more of a structure to it.
But it's also been recognizing, a bit like we were talking on the other webinar, that things have changed. The model has changed. So when children now start at nurseries, it's, as you say, Debbie, it's not the regular drip, drip, drip any time. It is becoming much more around sort of funding start dates. And and I think you've recognized that, and you're actually doing something about it, which is really, really positive. I think I think a lot of nurseries should take heed to that, because I know that they're not on that page. They haven't had, the penny hasn't dropped yet for them. And when it does drop, it does mean then that when they're looking at their own marketing, however they do it, you then become much more structured, because when you're going to get the surges, when the intakes are going to come in, and actually you can plan much better than just going, I'll do an event here and hope that we get some numbers in, type thing.
No, definitely.
And you're not going to. People don't want to come along and walk around a nursery. Yeah. It's boring. They'd rather go to soft play. They need things that are high interest, because we've changed as a generation and as a society, we need things to draw us in. And if a much wiser person than me says, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get the same results. So if they don't change their mindset, then they're going to be dead in the water. And we've got to fight for our survival as a sector.
100%. And that it's a big topic at the moment. You know, in terms of, you know, with the funding and changes that are being made by the government and everything else. It's important now more than ever to be stand out. You know, and that's the key. You know, I went to the opening of the Cotswolds Designer Outlet yesterday, and they've made it such a standout thing that you almost can't avoid it locally, right? It's everywhere. And it's that presence they've managed to achieve that stops me, you know, as a person going up the road to another town to go shopping. You know, actually, why let's go to the outlet now? You know, it's better. It's not necessarily better. It's not any different to the town, but the difference is how they've marketed it and pushed that. It comes across as better, and it comes across as the place to go, which obviously is key. But I'm really conscious on time now in this session, but we've got a tiny bit of time just to do a quick fire round. And I've got a few questions already sent through. And if you don't mind, Debbie and Nigel, I'll ask each of you a question, and if you just give me a quick answer if you can. Nigel's got a habit of giving multiple answers within an answer, so we'll see how we go on these Q&As. But the first question is, Debbie, what is the best event theme you have ever run?
The last one, the Gruffalo. The Gruffalo was spectacular because he's on theme. He's everywhere. He's very on trend apparently, and because the staff were more engaged perhaps than they have been before, because we were letting them choose to do things themselves. But the Gruffalo was definitely the best until the next one. And then because we've learned from this one, our next event in December is going to be phenomenal.
No, that's brilliant. And I guess, you know, Nigel, same question to you. You know, what would your best event theme be?
Oh, crikey. I can't answer that. It was such a long time. It's been a while ago since I was at a nursery event. I mean, the last one that was memorable, should we say, was at the village in Purbright, where it was part of the Scarecrow Festival. So actually, the theme was already set by the village. So that was predetermined. But actually, the whole nursery was then decorated with that sort of rural theme. Scarecrow, you know, everything was in it. It was really, really quite stunning and very successful.
Yeah, see, the key there is that you've remembered it, right? So that's the main thing. You know, you remembered an event that you ran in the past, and even if it was years ago, you know, it's still memorable now. So there you go. You know, if you create those memorable events, parents will remember it, the team will remember it, and you know, you're always going to be building that presence, which is great. Final question for you both before we wrap up. What is one mistake to avoid? Debbie, over to you to start.
Lack of organisation. You need to have it to the T. Everything needs to be planned, and then planned again. You need to know exactly where everyone's going to be and what everyone's going to be doing.
Right, brilliant. And the same to you, Nigel?
I have to reiterate what Debbie said there. It's all about planning. It's all about having a clear plan in your head. I suppose giving yourself enough time to do the event properly, you know, because you've got lots of things to think about. You've got pop-ups on websites, how you're going to capture pre-information, your theme, how you're going to deliver it, how you're going to operate on the day, how you're going to make sure you've got enough engagement through social media and ads. So there's a lot to think about, and I think it's just giving yourself lots of time. And people underestimate how much time you need to plan an event.
No, that's brilliant. I think, you know, to wrap up the session today, I think, you know, if anybody that's watching, anybody that's listening on the podcast, I mean, you know, the key thing then is think about time. You know, think about planning, think about thinking ahead. And we did a fantastic podcast in our session 1 of the CM stage, all about actually planning and thinking ahead. You know, trying to implement a plan now for the next 6 months, for the next 12 months, and really starting to be in a position where you're being as proactive as you can be, rather than just reacting to everything that's happening, the changes that are happening within the sector. Because that reactiveness doesn't always create a positive outcome. You know, it can be negative. And with events, as we've discussed today, being a key one, the unsuccessful events are those that have been reactive. They've been run, they've been rushed through, and not had the level of promotion or the level of organisation that you've had, Debbie, in your recent Gruffalo event. And it's that type of mentality that needs to be shifted, because if you shift that mentality, you're going to be running amazing events, and the experience is going to be positive for everybody involved. And you're not going to be in that position where you run an event and you have 1 or 2 people turn up, because nobody wants that and nobody enjoys that either. So I guess just a closing thought. I mean, Debbie, have you got anything else to close, or is that pretty much everything? Have we covered off everything that you would have?
Well, I think we've covered it all. Just be brave and give it a go. You've got nothing to lose.
Brilliant. And
just do it differently.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, be different, stand out. That's key. Nigel, anything from you?
I think Debbie's sort of proven what works at events, and I think there's a lot of people that can learn from that. And good luck everybody with your future events.
Excellent. So thank you all for joining us today. This is obviously our session 2 of our CM stage. We've got 98 more sessions now before the end of the year. So you can tune into any of our sessions, tune in our podcast, tune in our Facebook page, join our Facebook group where we share the sessions as well. And thank you all for listening.